Welcome to Heal Your Relationships, Heal Your Shadow Relationships. And I am your host, Neola Sparkus, and today we have with us the beautiful, gifted, exquisite Dr. Carmen Harra. Dr. Carmen Harra. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about her. She is an internationally acclaimed intuitive psychologist, author, relationship coach, and a spiritual teacher. And originally born in Romania, Carmen began touring throughout Europe as a singing sensation in her teenage years, releasing 12 albums, which all became instant hits. But all the while, Carmen was committed to her education, and she eventually earned a PhD in hypnosis and alternative healing, and then went on to complete a PhD in clinical psychology. Her first book, Everyday Karma, has been translated into 20 different languages and sold all over the world. And for more than 20 years, Carmen has counseled over 40,000 clients from all walks of life. She's written 6 best-selling books, hosted hundreds of radio shows, live seminars, and countless television appearances and on national and international networks. She has worked with such clients as the Clintons, Vice President Joe Biden, Barbara Walters, Nancy Pelosi, Candace Bergen, Jennifer Lopez, Deepak Chopra, Whoopi Goldberg. The list goes on and on. This is just a partial list. So we are so grateful to have you here, Dr. Carmen Harra, for talking about our shadow relationships.
Thank you so much for having me. And listen, this is the topic I love, because we all have relationship problem in a way or another. And you talk about the shadow is all that dark side of you that is reflected in a relationship. And when you think of relationship, you think of many relationships. You don't only think of love relationships. You think of relationship with your family members from the beginning of your life. You think of relationship with the people around you, from coworkers to distant relatives to people who come in your life out of the blue, and they come to teach you something about you and the way you relate to the world around. So I think you choose a phenomenal topic, and there's so much to talk about it. And I don't even know where to begin, because the complexity of this topic is absolutely amazing. And people really think of relationship like love life, their love life. You know, how is my love life doing? How is my relationship with my lover? And they don't really realize that to have a fulfilling relationship with, let's say, the man in your life, your spouse, or your, how should I say, soulmate, if you're lucky to find your soulmate, it all depends of all the other relationships that you are connected to. Let's say your parents, your children, as I said, all the other people.
Well, you took the words out of my mouth, because that's why I put this summit together, because I think relationship is so fundamental to the way we operate in life. Everything is a relationship. We have a relationship with our work, even with inanimate objects. We have relationships with our pets. And I really feel that the success and health of our relationship depends on and is a direct reflection of our relationship with ourselves. And that's the primary one. So before we get into this vastly complex topic, I want to tell our viewers a little bit about you, because I find your story so fascinating. And being Eastern European myself, I always wanted to interview somebody who was born in Transylvania. So I just love that. So you grew up in Romania, and something happened to you when you were 5 years old. So tell us that story.
So yeah, I grew up in Transylvania, and not a lot of people from Transylvania would go on live television to talk about their life experiences. But yes, when I was 5 years old, and 5 in Kabbalah is the house of transit of death, you know, the 5 weeks of the day is Friday, you know. So if you remember what happened on the 5th day of the week, you know, Jesus died on the 5th day, for instance, you know. So 5 symbolizes the 5th dimension, going beyond the 4th level of creation, which is the physical world. And it's interesting, when I was 5 years old, I was with my parents by a river, you know, and I drowned because I didn't know how to swim at that age. And so I realized, as I was so young, but I did realize in that experience, it was a near death experience, that there is something else beyond the world of the sensory. So I saw a beautiful light, which everybody who says I had a near death experience describes the light that you go into and you start seeing something else. And it was a fascinating experience. And I met people, on another dimension that were very nice to me, faces that seemed very familiar. And then, of course, that episode was very fast, very quick, and my father found me in the water. And since then, I should say that something opened at the level of the perception, which people who have near death experience, something opens at the sensory level. They go to the sixth sense, to the seventh sense, to a different perception, to an ability to transcend the world of the physics, to transcend chronology, to see. You become a seer. And I'm very grateful for that experience. And that allowed me to be who I am, that allowed me to erase the fear. I've never been afraid of anything. There's no fear in me. Because when you're not afraid to die, you're not afraid of anything else. And I think that this gives me the chance to look at people and see through them, see where they're going, see where they've been. You see the totality of the human experiences. And that is very powerful when we're talking about relationships, to see the totality. And you made a fabulous point, by the way. You said that it all starts with yourself, it all starts with the relationship with you. So if you don't open to your own self, which a lot of people don't know their self, they don't know. They go through life in a total phase of confusion. And that's the darkness of the soul. So if you don't open, to acknowledging your own potential and the way you relate to other people is significant to your own self, because you need to know you to be able to relate to others.
Yes, what was it? The oracle at Delphi said, "Know thyself," and that was supposed to be the wisdom of the ages. And sometimes we don't really know how to interpret that. What does it mean to know yourself? How do you know yourself? So, do you have any thoughts on how somebody can start getting to know themselves?
I think every single day of your life, you can introspect your own way to act. You observe yourself. You become your own observer. As much as we like to observe other people, and we're very critical of other people, the first criticism we should address to ourselves. The way we look, the way we dress, the way we express ourselves, the way we manifest reality, from interpreting our own dreams, our own emotions, our own weakest points, our strongest points. You're in a constant quest of finding the best in you, like creating the best version of you at the end of the day. That's why we are here for. It's almost like I should say we're here to give birth to us before anything else. And if you give birth to the biggest version of you, then you will bring the best people in your life, the best situation, the best circumstances. So it's a lot of work. It's a lot of homework that should be done every single day. This is the school of life. You go through life and you learn about you, and that life is beautiful. That life is the best adventure. But without knowing yourself, you get lost in this forest. You get lost in this extraordinary road that you don't know where it starts and where it begins and where you're supposed to go. So I think that people should work with their power of their mind, with that intuitive mind that will help them see through themselves. And when I learned hypnotherapy, I was so fascinating about the subconscious mind, because everything about us, where you coming from, exists already within you. At a certain degree, you are programmed. From the very beginning, from that drop of DNA that you are born, you are programmed to go through a certain experience. And if you have the right perception and if you know yourself, then you, as I said, then you can create that version, and then life is really magic and beautiful.
Wow, you said so much here. You made so many fantastic points. First of all, I see a certain joy and freedom in you that you say you became fearless from that initial experience of tasting or touching the other side. And that gave you a gift that helps you to help other people. And now you use your intuitive abilities when you do readings for people too, not just your psychological education. How did the two of those combine in the work that you
They
do?
combine amazingly well. It's for instance, looking at somebody and seeing things about that person, where that person is coming from, and but also using the tools of the traditional psychology in combination with the parapsychological ability to see through the person. So you put that two and two together and you create a whole, the oneness about the person. So the person is complete at that point.
And I also love that you said if you are complete within yourself, then you're just going to attract good people to yourself. And so then it's like people are always wondering, how do I attract my soulmate? How do I attract my, my perfect partner, my spouse, whatever. But it really comes back to if you know yourself, like you say. And I just love that you said that. So maybe you can give us some pointers about how to recognize the shadow when it shows up in our lives. Because you made a good point of saying we should be observers of ourselves. How do you observe that, oh, this is that unconscious material that I have never seen or never owned? Because, if we don't own it, we don't recognize it. We tend to project it out on other people.
When you go through life and you feel stuck or blocked or unfulfilled, then your first reaction, the human reaction, is to blame all of this in the outside world and say, this is happening to me because of such and such people or such circumstances. But if you go inward and going back to knowing you, and that subconscious mind is where the shadow might be, not in the consciousness.
Right, right.
In the consciousness, you have a perception of the reality at the sensory level, but the unconscious mind carries all your previous experiences, all your weaknesses, all your negative, all your fears are there. So that's where the shadow relies on the subconscious mind. But remember, subconscious mind is 90% of your reality. The conscious world is only 10%. That's why we say all the time that the left side of the brain and the right side of the brain, they operate differently. That's when you learn psychology. Because one side of the brain operates on the sensory and the other side operates on the memory, where all those negative tendencies exist. If you acknowledge them and if you acknowledge where your weakest points are, you can work on those. And then the shadow comes into the light, and it comes into the light, the shadows vanish. You can eliminate that. So what it's going to do is that let's say you're in a bad relationship with somebody because of your shadow. If you bring that shadow into the light, that relationship clears. The issues go away and they go suddenly. It's so amazing and so magical. You transform something that you felt can never change and always go in the wrong way. And all of a sudden that turnaround can happen the moment you bring your issues to the surface and you acknowledge that, hey, I'm insecure here. I'm afraid. I'm jealous. I'm jealous, in this relationship, and I can never have peace with my partner. I deal with this every single day. I see the same pattern reoccurring. And then you have to acknowledge that things in your brain have come with a switch. There are things that you can switch on and switch off. You can switch off your fear, and your resentment, all the negative feeling, and you can switch on your ability to see. You can switch on you can switch on your positive side, the unconditional love, and that will really turn around the relationship that for a long time, let's say, is going in the wrong direction. You can switch it in the right one. It can be done. It's the work of the mind, but it's a fascinating work.
That is so amazing. So to summarize that, when we see patterns that we feel that we feel stuck and we're blocked, and to be very conscious and observing ourselves as to who else we're blaming outside of ourselves or the circumstances that we're blaming, and then to turn it around. And I heard you say, bring it to the light, which means speak it. If it's with somebody else, then you communicate your truth to that person. And of course, there has to be, some people feel that they don't have enough safety in the relationship to say how they truly feel, or how do you help people to be able to speak their truth in a way that the person that they're relating to
Well,
can hear it.
here's where I think the cognitive therapy is very helpful, because the cognitive therapy is based on the fact that you need to speak out what's within you, what bothers you. You get it out from your chest, And the moment you acknowledge that you have a problem, it's exactly like you're an alcoholic and you verbalize it and say, I am an alcoholic, then you can be cured. If you don't acknowledge, I am a jealous type of a woman, or I'm insecure, or I don't portray myself the right way, or I have deep wounds from my childhood, or I've been abused, and you continue to deny it and let it live within you, then you can never be healed. A good relationship comes with a lot of healing. We here on earth to actually heal each other and heal ourselves. If we were perfect, we won't live in an imperfect world, so we're imperfect creature. And so we need to work on our imperfections. And the shadows are carrying all those imperfections, but you need to acknowledge them. If you're in denial about what is within you that is stopping you from and is blocking you, is stopping you from moving forward, then we can never change anything. And a lot of people like the one we are describing, people in situation of being blocked, they can stay blocked for many years. That's the danger.
Yes.
So if you stuck, you can be stuck for a very long time if you don't do your inner work,
right,
to break through. It's about breaking through.
Yes.
And acknowledging, and then from there on, the transformation, as I said, happens very fast.
Mm-hmm.
I say people out there who they marry and marry and marry and marry celebrities in Hollywood. They married 5 times, 10 times, and nobody's good enough. Why is that? What's stopping them from really, settling down with somebody who has to be a good partner? And here, whenever you want, I want to talk about the types of relationships, because
okay, good.
yeah, people don't acknowledge there are different types of relationships. They think, oh, they're all the same and they mix things around, but there are 4 major types of relationships. And I want to talk about very, very briefly. And I think people listening or watching the video, they will immediately identify themselves with one of these types of relationships. The first relationship I should call transitory. When you're a teenager, you meet a boyfriend and you think, oh, this is the man of my life. But then you realize 2 years later, that was just a transition to take you from being a teenager into becoming a woman. Or you go through a divorce and you meet somebody, but that's not a person who's supposed to stay in your life. It's just a transition in your life. So there are moments in our life when we go through short relationships that are not meant to last. And we have a hard time because we want everything to last, except that relationships that are transitory are very common and they happen very often. So that's the first thing, the transitory relationship. Then there are relationships that are compromise relationships. A lot of people compromise. You marry somebody because that person gives you a financial stability, or you marry somebody because you've been influenced by other people in your life, or your parents. It's an arranged marriage, or you just marry him by mistake, and then you have 3 kids, and you don't want to divorce that man because you're already trapped into having children responsibility. And I met so many people, so many patient clients coming to me said, yeah, I've been realizing only now after 30 years that my relationship was just a compromise. So yeah, that's the majority of relationships that we see in our life are compromise relationships.
That's so sad.
Yeah, it's very sad, but it's very true. And if you make peace with you and you said, well, I'm in a compromise relationship, but I don't know any better. And after 30 years, I'm going to stay in this compromise because we share 2 homes, or we share a car, or we share a bank account. And I'm not going to leave him because my kids are going to judge me. So that's the kind of a thinking that people have when they stick with the compromise for the rest of their life. They may never meet the soulmate,
Yeah.
That will never happen.
Yeah.
But coming down to the third type of relationship, which is soulmate. Soulmates are very rare, because 2 people who are like perfect for each other. It's the other half. You look at the world in the same way. You finish each other's sentences. It's the 2 of you against the world, Those are soulmate relationships. They are very rare. A lot of people look for that kind of an unconditional love, that amazing love, that extraordinary connection, but it's very hard to find. So that's one of the reasons that soulmate relationships are not that frequent and are rare, but are the best relationships ever, because you are perfect for each other. You don't see the world without the other person. The other person is everything for you. And then the fourth type of relationship are the karmic relationships. Karmic relationships are relationships that come into your life out of the blue. Like, let's say you married and all of a sudden you meet somebody that you cannot explain the connection. And you don't want to leave your marriage because you love your husband and you're happy where you are. But some kind of a past life, I call karma um, a representation of something that you bring in a life from a different experience, from somewhere at the subconscious level. There was another life, there was something an unfinished business that you had with somebody. So if you believe in past life, you understand karmic relationship. Karmic relationship can be very good or can be very difficult to deal with. Sometimes we have karmic relationship with our parents, with our children, or with different people who just come into our lives. But this is one of the type of love relationship that is karmic, that is very intense and very powerful and very complicated to deal with, because you don't really understand why that person came into your life. It's almost that person came into your life when everything else looked beautiful and perfect. And all of a sudden you meet somebody that you feel a connection that you cannot explain. Or you just marry somebody that you had karma with, and if karma is over, the relationship is over. I've seen people being married 7 years. One day the karma was closed, they walk away from each other, they don't look back, and it's all a done deal, and the business is finished, they have nothing to do with each other. So the karma is completely healed and closed. I mean, the number one law of spirituality is the law of karma. So, based on the concept of the universe, that the law of karma governs everything that happens in our life, because it's all the memory that we bring to life, then we will understand why karmic relationship happen. Those to summarize: transitory relationship, compromise relationship, soulmate relationship, and karmic relationship. These are the four types of love relationship.
That's so fascinating. And when you say karma, it is like issues, like emotional issues that need to be sorted out.
Absolutely, absolutely. Memories of all kind, connection that you cannot explain, chemistry that you cannot explain with somebody. Something that takes over you. You can't even control irrationally, because we tend to always use the rational mind in our lives. When all of a sudden emotion take over. And I've seen cases in people who are absolutely desperate of not comprehending and not knowing how to deal with a karmic relationship because it was so intense and powerful. So karma is powerful.
Very powerful. So that can be considered part of the shadow too, because you don't even know what's pulling you.
Absolutely. Completely part of the shadow. Absolutely, completely part of the shadow. Yeah.
And you wanted to address how else the shadow shows up in the relationship with people's fears. Like, what do you think of fear of intimacy, and how can people?
Absolutely.
How can they get through that? Can you give us some tips for dealing with fear of being too intimate or too close with somebody?
Oh, that's a really big one. That also is karmic. It's also karmic, because karmic means, okay, when you are very young, you had a relationship with somebody and you are not feeling comfortable, or you were abused verbally, or emotionally abused by somebody. Could have been probably your father. You don't know who abused you when you're really young, because it's interesting with us, when we are teenagers, we don't comprehend emotion. We imposters. And then it takes us a while to digest feelings. And when we're ready to process feelings, that there's already a karma that has been created, and that abuse will manifest in a physical relationship with somebody. So already there's a wall there. There's a wall between you and your partner. You feel the attraction, but you don't trust. You don't believe. You're afraid of being abused again, or you're afraid of being betrayed, or you're afraid of that you're not going to be able to be yourself or express yourself properly. So again, it goes back to try to know where it's coming from. If you know if your fear of intimacy or fear of commitment, because that's another huge one. Usually the two of them work hand in hand. The fear of
Yes.
commitment and fear of intimacy, they work hand in hand. You know what's interesting? A lot of men have fear of commitment. In the world today, I've seen like more men than I've seen women that they said, I can't commit. I don't know what's wrong with me. I want to get married. I want it, but I cannot commit. And then I run from one relationship to another. And at the end, I call it fear of commitment, but that's much more deep of an issue within myself. And if it's not processed, then he wakes up at the age of 60, a man who has never been married. Let's say, talking about men who have these issues. But as I said, the fear of commitment works hand in hand by not being able to express yourself sexually, emotionally, not being able to to believe in you as a human being, and to sexuality is something that needs to be uh, sort of um, touched and understood and explored. It's a reflection of your inner self. You have to go there deep within you and know yourself sexually, which a lot of people don't.
Right.
They
Right.
don't know their sexuality. That's why we live in a world where there's so many people that doubt their sexuality. We live in a world, and the more the world is conflictual, the more people are conflictual about if they gay or they not, or they wanna, what I mean, live in some kind of a dysfunctional family. They don't get it, and they switch. I don't know if you had people who they say today they are straight and tomorrow they not, or 10 days later they said, I've been abused by my father when I 11-year-old, but I realized 30 years later. So you hear these stories more and more invading the media, and you even hear this by people who are very known, by people in the media, to start to come up, and from there, the result of this is addiction, 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 addiction. So what the shadow does, if not brought into the light, will self-destruct. I was just thinking recently about this amazing man, William
Robin Williams.
Robin Williams. The way this man died, it had a lot to do with his sexuality. It had a lot to do with all the women in his life. It had a lot to do with him being a genuine, pure, kind, humble man who could never probably express those emotions that were buried within himself. And then he started to self-destruct. He became an alcoholic,
Yes.
and a genius, goes up and killing himself without getting any kind of a help. That is such a problem for this world. When cases like this happen, the world should wake up and say, what's going on? Where is
Yes.
the healing? Is the
Yes.
healing taking place? If people like this die like this and there's nothing we can do, then we really have facing a major tragedy for the whole
Yes.
world.
I so totally agree with you, Carmen. This, as you said before, this is such a vast topic. We've barely touched on it. I so appreciate all of your points of view. Everything you say is just total pure wisdom, and I love hearing it all. And now we want to tell people, if they want to work with you, how can they get in touch with you? Tell them, you do Skype or phone, or where you're located, all that stuff.
Well, I have a home and office in Florida, near Miami. And I'm also located in New York. I have an office in Manhattan, actually. And I can say I have an office in New Jersey too. But Skype, in the world today, in the technological world today, Skype is everything.
Yes.
You don't even need to come anywhere to see me. You see me on Skype. I do phone sessions for the people who are more shy and doesn't want to. They don't want to look in my eyes. They just want to talk to me. And that's perfectly fine. I mean, for me, it's easy to find me. You go to Carmen Harra, Carmenharra. Hara means a form of therapy. I mean,
Oh.
in the Ayurveda, Hara is the Hash therapy, the Hara therapy, which comes
Oh.
on the solar plexus. It's a way of healing your body and your mind and your spirit. So I love this name because I think it made me be, in a way, a healer of the soul. So
Wow.
and that's what we all need. Heal the shadow. No, you hit the shadow of everything,
Shadow.
and then you live that fulfilling life and that life in the light, and enjoy every second of it. So Carmen Harra at AOL is my email address. CarmenHarra.com is where they can find me. They can see things about me. I write for Huffington Post. I have a new book that I'm very proud of. It comes released in January by Penguin Books, and it's called, it's complicated, the hidden karma in relationships. So I'm trying to talk only relationship. This is a book that actually describes everything we're talking today in gray lens.
Oh,
So
great.
I'm excited about my new book. And everybody who wants to be in touch with me, I'll be very glad. And we want to give some free gifts, to people.
Yeah.
So for the people who are the first two people reaching out to me, they get a 15 minutes free session. I
Wow.
love free sessions. And for the 5 people reaching out, so the next three, they will receive one book from me as a gift. So I'm looking forward to hear from everybody listening and send them all my love.
Oh, fabulous. Thank you so much for those wonderful free gifts. So, everybody heard that. Down
You
below here is Carmen's website and also her email address. So, the first two people who email are going to get a free 15-minute session with Carmen. That's so awesome. And then the next three people will get a free ebook. So, you can't resist such an offer. And I so appreciate you being with us, Carmen. Your talent, your presence, your spirit really shines through. And I appreciate it so much. Thank you so much.
I appreciate you. You are beautiful.
Oh,
You picked up the right topic. You're doing the work to heal other people. You are amazing woman. I'm so grateful.
thank you so much. All right. We'll say goodbye for now to everybody. Thank you for listening and watching.